Welcome to a special edition of the Minnesota Vikings Chat Podcast, pre-draft podcast. We're trying to cram in as many positions as possible before the draft on April 25. The Vikings have 11 picks this year, 2 in the first round, many holes to fill, among them defensive tackle, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And so the Vikings on depth, the depth chart for the Vikings defensive tackle is rather thin. We've got Kevin Williams, who is our best defensive tackle on the roster right now, but he's aging and is not what he was in his prime, clearly. And so he was recently renegotiated his contract to a one-year deal, so this is likely his last year on the Vikings roster. Behind him, at his position, we have Christian Ballard, who really hasn't impressed thus far as a Viking. And at nose tackle, there's LaTroy Guion, who has been okay, I guess. Fred Evans, I think, has outplayed Guion. And then we got Chase Baker behind them, but all of them, as we said, are not as good as an aging Kevin Williams. So we need to get some young blood.
Though he hasn't fallen apart. I'm so tired of reading about Kevin Williams and how he's been a disaster, and everything you read like 3 times in the article says Kevin Williams has fallen off the table and he's a disaster. And
not a disaster.
He's very good.
Exactly.
It is a point of concern, and his contract is a concern.
Yeah. But we do need to bolster the position, and we do need his eventual replacement. So that's what we're going to talk about here. We should mention the difference between the two types of defensive tackles that we're looking for. We need depth at both positions. So there's Kevin Williams' spot, which is the 3 technique. And when people talk about the 3 technique, what they're talking about is not necessarily a technique, but a position along the defensive line. And so odd numbers, when they're referring to numbers and techniques, odd numbers are offset from the opposing offensive lineman they're lining up against, and even numbers are when you're lining up head-to-head, helmet-to-helmet against the opposing offensive lineman. So for the 3 technique, what they're referring to is a defensive tackle who is offset to the outside shoulder of the guard. And so that's Kevin Williams' position. For that position, you need explosiveness because it's designed to get the defensive tackle to penetrate the line of scrimmage, to disrupt running plays, and to attack the offense during passing plays as a pass rusher. The other defensive tackle is commonly called a nose tackle. So you've got the under tackle with Kevin Williams' position, and then the nose tackle with the other defensive tackle position. That position typically is somebody you want, a big guy, 330-pound guy who eats up. Pat Williams, exactly. Perfect example of a defensive tackle. Eats up space, demands double teams because he's so big and powerful. Can disrupt running lanes and cut and account for the cutback runs too. So those are the 2 types of positions we're looking at. And this draft is apparently deep in defensive tackles, but we'll start out with the top 2, which we're not likely to get, but let's talk about them anyway. So first we've got Sharif.
Actually, before you start, should mention the contract status of the 4 starters on our defensive line, that all 4 are unrestricted free agents at the end of the year, which is a very rare thing. So. That's
right. So it wouldn't be surprising if we take a defensive end as well. So, Sheldon Richardson is from Missouri. He is 6'2", 294 pounds, 34 and 1/8 inch arm length, 4'7", 40 at his pro day, 5'02", 40 at the combine.
Must have been a very generous friend with the stopwatch. So. Taking a couple of tenths of a second.
Yeah, well, it's all about who holds the stopwatch, right? Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on Richardson?
Really athletic. Maybe more athletic than some of the 2 guys that'll go ahead of him, 2 or 3 guys. He does. He just looks lighter on his feet. Real strong, sort of tackling inside, and seemed to be real quick. I don't know what the level of competition or what I was watching was, but he seemed to get off real quick in his first step. I don't know how that he was the best guy at chasing things down, from what I saw. His knock, in sort of reading the negatives about him, was he played against a couple of pretty good blockers that'll be in the draft this year and next year, and he kind of disappeared. So that is a definite concern. He did play some zone too. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's one thing I noticed too, is him dropping the zone coverage, and so that's we've done that before. We've seen that with the Vikings defense, so that is an asset. I thought he had some quick lateral closing speed along the line. He did, have some explosion off the first step. So a lot of people have us picking him with our one of our first round picks. So it's that's certainly a possibility for us at 23 or 25.
Yeah, I should add that it wasn't. I don't know that he wasn't fast when he chased guys down. He just kind of grabs them and holds them instead of tackling them and running through them. So for whatever that's worth.
Where the absence of Winfield is going to hurt us. Not teaching people how to tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I did read a couple of times that he's got a passion for football, which I'd hope that any player entering the NFL draft has. But it is something that the Vikings have consistently said is one of their characteristics that they're looking for in players is people who have a passion to win. So for what it's worth.
Making him a pure nose tackle, he might not be the strongest upper body guy. For holding that position, I don't know. There definitely is some space between Floyd and Latulele and him, but he's very intriguing. And personally, I'd be very happy to get a defensive tackle in the first round. So
he's 294 pounds. So my notes I had, he doesn't look like he's a space-eating nose tackle type. He's got more explosiveness and maybe more of a three technique, but who knows? A lot of these players, though, I think have played significant snaps at both positions, so at least they've got experience with that. If we haven't talked about defensive tackle that you like, put your comments leave your comments below, and share the videos, of course, and like them and all that stuff, and we'll look at cornerbacks next. So, Rick, you got any self-promotion you want to do?
Just promote this, help us out, let people know about it. And again, I'll repeat, get in your opinions before the draft.
Exactly.
It doesn't count if you put some guy in after the draft. Oh, you should have talked about
I had,
Exactly. These things are dated. Look out.
Exactly.
So get on it now.
So let's wrap this for Minnesota Vikings Chat Podcast, MinnesotaVikingsChat.com. Follow us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Minnesota Vikings Chat, on Twitter at Twitter.com/MN Vikings Chat, and use the Vikings Chat hashtag when talking about the Vikings, of course, so we can find you. Until our next podcast before the draft, that's a wrap. Go Vikings.
Go Vikings.